And we're live. All right, cool. Doing a real quick live today, just to essentially answer a question. So recently had a new subscriber write me an email and just said that they really appreciated the channel. So I'm speaking about Bill Coleman, and just wrote me a nice email and said that he found the channel and enjoyed it. So I responded, just said, hey, appreciate that. If you ever have questions, let me know. And so Bill came back and talking a little bit about himself, and I felt like this might have some application for other folks. So he mentions that he's 63, been training for a long time on and off, really not interested in cutting any weight, but wanting to build strength. And so he has some questions. So he wants to know how frequently in my routine I push for heavy weight and low reps, or going for personal bests or PRs versus backing the weight off significantly and increasing the rep speed. Saying that it's hard for him because he just continually wants to push heavy weight. So program and how you structure it matters. Hey, what's going on, Adam? Program and how you structure it matters. It's it really does set the tone for everything. So to answer your question, Bill, I think going for personal bests should be the exception and not the rule. Because if you imagine going for a 1 rep max on something, it's kind of a lot like redlining your car, right? The engine of your vehicle. If you constantly redline that engine, the chances of causing damage or breaking down much higher. Kind of the same thing for your body. If you take your body to its absolute max capacity, the chance for injury is much higher. So what I opted to do with my training is I work with a phasic structure, meaning I go into distinct blocks. So early on, I have a hypertrophy block, which is that lower weight, higher rep range that you talked about. And that hypertrophy block really is the biggest portion of my training in terms of time. After the hypertrophy block, I have a strength block where the intensity goes up, so higher weights, and the rep range comes down, so lower volume, and then followed by the strength block is the peaking block. And the peaking block is typically the shortest of all of my cycles, because again, kind of going back to that redlining analogy, right? Peaking, meaning you're reaching for new 1 rep maxes or trying to push the envelope a bit. You can't really sustain that over a long period of time. So my peaking block might only be, I think maybe at most, the most I've ever done is maybe 4 weeks of a peak, where I build up, like 95%, 97%, and then maybe I'm going for like 105%, and then maybe 110% or something like that. So ratchet up the intensity over a 3 or 4 week period to get to hopefully a new 1 rep max. So the period of time in a calendar year that I'm looking for a new 1 rep max or pushing those numbers is really small. The preponderance of my time and space is really spent in my hypertrophy block and my strength block. And in fact, unless there's a reason for me to push and go for a new 1 rep max, sometimes I'll just get through the strength block and recycle and go right back to hypertrophy without even actually peaking. Clark, what's going on, man? Good to hear from you, dude. So that's that question. And how long you decide to do your hypertrophy block and your strength block, it really can vary depending on how you want to do things. I've done a hypertrophy block that lasted close to 10 weeks, which is a long time for hypertrophy, right? But it can be very daunting to stay in that because it's, in terms of seeing the numbers go up, it's not very mentally rewarding because you're dealing with relatively low numbers, you're doing higher rep schemes, and it really feels like torture. So a lot of times as I'm going through my program, when I transition from that hypertrophy into the strength, it for me is very mentally and emotionally rewarding because I can bump up the weight, bring that rep scheme down a little bit, and the workouts, although more intense in terms of relative 1 rep max proximity, is not so grueling because you're doing so many reps. Doing too many reps for me is very emotionally draining. Brad, what's going on, dude? Good to hear from you. I hope all is well. So Bill, I hope that answers the question. I really do believe that in order for you to best approach and achieve your best 1 rep maxes, you build up that baseline strength and then wave up to a peak, hit it, and then wave back down, so that you basically, it kind of goes in this ebb and flow of, this constant buildup. So if you imagine, I wish I had a whiteboard, so you're just going to have to kind of visualize as I speak. Maybe one of these times I'll get rearrange the office and I'll get a new whiteboard back here so I can do the whiteboarding like so many other people do. But imagine, just for loose numbers, your 1 rep max of your squat is, say, 100 pounds. And I realize that's not realistic, but this is just for conversational purposes. So 1 rep max is 100 pounds is the best that you've hit. So all of your numbers in your program are based off of that, of a percentage of that 1 rep max. So as you progress through your training program, ideally, after you wave up, you should be able to hit something more than the 100 pounds. It might be 110, it might be 105, whatever it ends up being. You end up hitting a new 1 rep max at the end of your program. So hypertrophy, strength, peak, new 1 rep max. So now once you hit that new 1 rep max and you reload on the program, all your numbers are going to be based off of that new 1 rep max. So then as you progress through time, your workouts are going to continuously get harder through time because you're basing them off of new 1 rep maxes. So when you wave back down and you're dealing with those lower percentages, the lower percentages of the second wave of the program are higher than that first wave, if that makes sense. And then basically you just rinse, repeat through time and just keep that going. So that through time and space, you're continuously making the program harder, but it's not happening so fast that it's overwhelming. Arno, what's going on, man? You worked with RPE? Cool. Well, RPE is something that a lot of people do. I don't really like it just because it's so subjective. But some people really enjoy it, and ultimately it's whatever works for you. Clint, good afternoon, man. Yeah, cool. Wow, I'm honored that you'd be listening to me while you're squatting, dude. That's really cool. Say hey to April. Brad, I don't know what you mean, man. April? I don't know, dude. You have to help me out. I don't remember the reference. Oh, okay. Hi, April. That's awesome, dude. That's my wife. Cool. All right. Well, hello, April. I'm Brad. Brad and I knew each other from a long time ago. Solid dude. You got yourself a good man. And then the last question that Bill had was talking about supplements. And so supplements is kind of a tricky thing, right? A lot of people spend a lot of time and energy and money on supplements, and there's a lot of stuff that's out there. Supplement industry has been a big thing for a long time, and there's always going to be some new fandangled thing, right, that rolls out, and it's the new hotness or whatever else. Through the duration of my time in fitness and training and kind of being serious about lifting, I started lifting when I was in high school. So, training in my basement and just kind of having fun from like the age of, 14, 15, being more serious once I got into high school, and then getting really, really serious at about 17, 18, to where I basically went exclusively to powerlifting and never really looked back. And this summer I turned 38. So we're talking, 20 plus years of doing, exercise, whatever else, and looking at supplements and things like that. To this day, really the only things that I'll take any time or energy to mess with is I like a pre-workout because I enjoy the high stim. I enjoy the vasodilators just to help facilitate a pump. I like the feeling of a good pump at the end of a workout. So pre-workout, high stim, stuff with some vasodilation in there for a good pump. Creatine. Creatine has been a staple for a long time, and I take 5 grams of creatine every single day irrespective of whether or not I train that day. So 5 grams a day, every single day, all day, never waving off, never cycling, every creatine. Youngster 38, thanks Arno. That's cool. Yeah, well, I'm glad I made the wife laugh, Brad. Yeah. Anyhow, so creatine is a constant thing for me. It plays a role in the ATP cycle, so it helps your body get access to bursts of energy. So explosive stuff like a sprint, like a bench, like a squat, not really as beneficial for sustained activity like a marathon, because that uses a different energy pathway. But for explosive stuff, really good. Plus, it helps hold a little bit of water into the cells. So a better hydrated cell is a better functioning cell. So specifically, muscle cells, having a little bit better hydrated muscles is a good thing. So creatine is definitely a staple for everything I do. I really enjoy taking vitamin D. I don't see any huge benefit in terms of how I feel with vitamin D. If I take it one day or I don't take it, I don't feel any difference. But there are a lot of really great health benefits for having vitamin D. As I understand, with the whole epidemic thing that's been rolling around, low vitamin D levels can be an issue with that. So vitamin D is very good for the immune system and a number of other functions. You can do some Google searching and see all the positive effects that vitamin D has. And I think that many people are vitamin D deficient. So I will supplement with vitamin D, and then and really protein. So protein, I don't get fancy with protein. So you could take a look at the different types of proteins out there. Obviously, there's a lot of different brands and things like that. There may be some subtle differences from one to another in terms of brand or whatever. And certainly there's casein, whey, egg. So there's different varieties of the base of protein. But by and large, I just treat protein like protein. So as long as it tastes good and it's palatable to me, I'm really indiscriminate with which protein I use. So I don't have a protein brand or anything that I am loyal to. It just happens to be whatever's on sale or whatever I get is usually good enough for me. So just ensuring that my protein intake for a day is high. And I only very loosely track that. I'm not super specific about any of my macros, really. I more or less eat whatever I want and more or less do whatever I want. So, Leave, hey, what's going on, Leave? Good to have you finally catch a live stream. Appreciate you being here. And then Arno says, yeah, always learn something. Cool, man. I hope that shoulder's going good. I know I've seen some of the stuff that you're continuing to train. So that's good that you're staying with it. Work on getting your range of motion, being able to increase, whatever your limitation is, get through that full range of motion, increasing blood flow, and not immobilizing, right? So a lot of times when we get an injury, a natural tendency is to immobilize that body part, but the immobilization definitely limits the activity when it's blood flow. And so the immobilization of an injury can actually make things worse. I very much advocate light movement through tolerable range of motion, right? So avoiding pain, and then just continuing to build. So that's kind of how I go about things. So I hope that the shoulder starts getting better for you. So the questions for Bill was the main reason for me doing the live. I'm going to hang out for another couple of minutes to see who among you may have some questions or anything like that, and just kind of be able to hang out with you guys for a few minutes. So feel free to pop into the chat and leave some comments or ask some questions, and I'll let you know what's going on with my life. And yeah, that's kind of what's going on. Yes, all day, good. So good to hear that you're going through stuff, Arno. I like a lot of band work too. I think bands are really good for rehabilitation. I'm nursing a repeat of my quad injury. So I'll put together a video of the actual injury. It really doesn't look like much. You just see a little bit of leg movement. but it hurt like hell. And so it's kind of a re-injury of an old injury. So I'm working on some stuff, doing some adduction with bands to help kind of rehabilitate, recover, and get some movement in my leg to help me. Eve wants to know what my opinion about people that have a soft soul. Um, what do you mean by a soft soul? Like just people who are just gentle? Um, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I think that I think being a kind person is probably a good thing. I think in myself, I try to be generally kind and nice to people, and try to be as good a person as I can. So I don't know if that answers the question, but I think that being good to people around you is probably a good thing. Um, but I think too, being good also has its limitations, right? Like you can't be everything to everyone. So at some point in time, even generosity or kindness, there's a stopping point. So I'm willing to help people or go out of my way for people, but only to a certain point. And then obviously the closer you are to me, the more I'd be willing to go out of my way. But I think that's kind of a natural thing. Jared, hey, looking to do any powerlifting comps in the next year? No, I wish that I could. So long story short, I work for the Army, right? And so the Army has a lot of say about where I go and when I go. So unfortunately, I will not be in the United States for very much longer. So I don't have the time or space to get any of that in. So there won't be any competitions. There will not be any competitions for sure for 2020. And 2021 is not looking good either. So yeah, it'll be a minute. Lee, I hope I answered the question. Sounds good. Are you also a soft soul? All right, Arno. Arno's a good dude, man. Arno's been with the channel for a long time, and really become a staple of the channel. Watch the videos, comments on videos. Been through a lot of stuff. So it's crazy too with the channel, right? Like getting to know people, because the more the more people interact with me, and the more I interact with everybody. And I do try to be very interactive in the comments. So if anyone leaves a comment that warrants a response, I always try to respond. There's one particular video that I have that really blew up, that most of the comments that get left on that video do not warrant a response. So I haven't responded to any of those really. But by and large, I try to be very interactive with everyone, and it's really cool because over time you get to know people, and it's pretty cool. When am I going to Holland? And the police says there's nothing there. I don't know. Europe trips for me, so I generally don't like traveling that much, to be honest. I'm kind of a homebody. When given my choice, I would much prefer to stay at home and be surrounded by my things and my family, and be in one spot. Traveling gives me a lot of anxiety, because there is, like, you have to be somewhere, right? Like flying, right? If you miss a flight, then it becomes this whole protracted thing. So I have never grown to appreciate travel, and I think it's been my distaste for traveling has been exacerbated by being in the Army, because so very frequently the Army makes me go places I don't want to go, and so when I have say about where I am in the world, I want to be home. So a Europe trip might be difficult to get out of me, but at least it's not outside the realm of possibility. Jared, another overseas tour? There's going to be on the other side of the planet here. So I am not overly excited about that. I'm not going to lie to you. In fact, I have exactly zero interest in it. However, got to do what you got to do. Don't get Nacho this time. Yeah, dude. So I don't know if any of you have gone through that, like rhabdo. That sucks. Uh, yeah, there was a brief period of time during the that event that rhabdo in South Korea. There, I thought dying was a real possibility. So not my finest moment. Clint, what do you like for cardio for powerlifting? Hypertrophy squats are killing me. Man wasn't meant to do more than 5 reps. I completely agree, Jared. I think anything more than 5 reps is cardio. Um, Now, in terms of cardio for powerlifting, um, if you have the ability um, to focus exclusively on powerlifting and don't have other life requirements that require you to do some running, right? Like, so Army requires me to run a 2 mile test, right? So I do have to build in some measure of running into what I do, or be prepared to do that when called upon, right? So I have an external requirement on me. So many people don't, right? So if you have a civilian position at whatever, and there is no physical requirement for you to do any running, then any amount of running would be on you. The biggest thing for the cardiovascular capability in the powerlifting realm would be what they often refer to as general physical preparedness, or GPP. And really, what that is your ability to do things and sustain things, right? And not being so exhausted by the exertion, right? So if you are a power lifter, the law of specificity would say that you do powerlifting, right? So squat, bench, and deadlift. And then the more specific things that you do to those movements, the better carryover to the movement, right? So you're not going to get a better squat carryover than squatting, right? Than a normal competition squat. But you may get some carryover for squat by doing something like a leg press. So not exactly the same movement, but specific enough to give you some carryover. You want to be able to do things in terms of the cardio stuff that's going to allow you to be okay as you train, right? It'll help you not be out of breath and not keel over from exhaustion by some level of exertion. So I see that as being a beneficial thing for powerlifting, some baseline of general physical preparedness. But there is a point of diminishing returns, right? So in terms of the cardio, right, like you want to be able to exert yourself or go through a training session without dying, but also there's no requirement for you to go run a marathon. So training marathon-esque running style is not going to be beneficial to your powerlifting. So you have to kind of find what works for you somewhere in the middle, right? And how you choose to go about it is up to you. I enjoy running specifically on a treadmill because I can set the pace and I can control it, and I can speed up or slow down very exactly, and that way I can kind of make sure that I'm not overdoing it, and can push myself incrementally. So I hope that helps. Jump ropes are another thing that I enjoy. You can do some sled work. I know that like Westside Barbell does a lot of stuff with sled work, and part of the reason for that is again that GPP. Yep, home is always the best. I know, I totally agree. Jared says he hates cardio, but we'll say been doing Brian Allsrud type giant sets for a few weeks. Hated it at first. It was getting better, and conditioned cardio is certainly getting better. And it's not a treadmill or elliptical. Yeah, so Brian Allsrud does a lot of really cool stuff. But the thing to remember with the way that Brian Allsrud does things versus maybe the way that I do things has everything to do with focus. So Brian's state of mind is more to be capable of responding to the world if he has to, right? So he wants to have a higher state of cardiovascular preparedness and things like that than I would care to if left to my own devices, right? If I didn't have to run for the Army, I would never run because I believe running breeds cowardice. But Brian's philosophy is a little bit different, and so therefore all of his training and stuff like that is geared and based off of that training philosophy. So you can see the way that he executes it, what his focuses are, has very much to do with what his goals are, vice what mine are. So certainly, if that's a type of style that appeals to you, it can definitely be very beneficial because you can get strong and you can also be able to sustain yourself to some degree cardiovascularly because you're doing those giant sets, right? It does push you cardiovascularly. So it's all about what your focus is and what you want to get out of what you're doing. The end of it, at the end of it all, my basic philosophy about training is that all training should serve a purpose. We should never do anything just to do something. We should always have a reason to be doing something. And so the goal of training isn't to be good at going to the gym. The goal of training is some output, a powerlifting competition, or you are in law enforcement and you need it as a necessity of your job or as a function of your position. So that's kind of how I look at training. It needs to serve a purpose, and there isn't anything I do for no reason. Yeah. All right, so I've been going for these lives always really astonish me. It's I'll intend when I start it to maybe go for 10 or so minutes and not make it a very long video, and then before I know it, it's almost a half hour. It's wild, or whatever it ends up being. It always goes so fast. We'll hang out for another minute or two and see if you guys have any other questions or want to bring up anything else to talk about. Otherwise, we'll close it down because I don't know how many of you guys are going to sit through 30 minutes of me talking, but I really do enjoy interacting with you guys and having you guys be able to hit me up direct. Lee says, I also do weight training for a bit, but find it so hard, getting really dizzy all the time, and I'm afraid I'll pass out. So training sometimes for me is very difficult as well. Because I don't tend to eat before I train. Because if I eat before I train, my stomach gets really upset, and I just feel very uncomfortable. It's just for me, it's not optimal. So I prefer to train on an empty stomach. Doing so also affects my blood sugar. So if I don't have anything in my system and I start training very hard, especially if I train in the garage and it's hot, it really taxes me, and I can actually feel my blood sugar levels drop. And so I get very dizzy and disoriented when I train at times as well. So what I have found that helps with that is many times I'll have some kind of candy in the garage with me that I can eat while I'm training. And so it gives me a bit of a sugar dump, helps me sustain my blood sugar levels so I don't feel that crash and get dizzy like that. But that dizziness for me is a drop in blood sugar. I don't know if it's the same for you, but that dizziness is what caused me to start keeping Jolly Ranchers, or one of my favorites is Sour Patch Kids. I love having Sour Patch Kids in the garage with me, and I'll eat a couple in between sets as I'm training, and I find that helps me not ever have those dizzy spells. So that might be something for you. I always eat something really sweet. Does that help? Does it really eat the feeling? Yeah. Really have the feeling that you can do more training more easy with something sweeter. Yeah. So if just based on what you're saying, I'm not a doctor, not a physician, not qualified to give any kind of medical advice whatsoever, but it sounds to me like the issue that you're experiencing is a blood sugar issue. And if you're feeling a positive effect by having something sweet, then I would say do what makes the training better, easier, and more comfortable for you. So if having those around makes you feel like you're more comfortable and better capable to exert yourself, go for it. Yeah, that's it. I'd like to ask you guys, I drop my email on all the videos and things like that. And I have the Instagram and all, a number of different ways to get a hold of me. You guys can help me out a lot by, hitting me up from time to time. If you guys have any questions, if there's, some form check videos that you guys would like me to do, just anything that I can do to be able to help you guys, and that would be something that you'd be interested in, because, if I can make a video that's going to help Jared or Arno or Eve or, whomever, like if that video helps you specifically, it's also going to help many other people as well. They'll probably experience the same thing. So, if you guys hit me up with some ideas and things like that, questions that you may have that I can try to develop some videos off of to be able to answer specific questions for my viewers, that really helps me out a lot too, and makes me feel good that I'm at least attempting to help you. I may or may not be able to solve it, but it's worth a try. What's going on, Jason? Appreciate that. Far too kind. It's time to fire up the GoPro and check depth. Yeah, no problem, Clint. If you end up sending me some videos, or you want to hit me up with a form check, have things that you'd like me to take a look at, always willing to do form checks and things like that and be able to help people out. So let me know. You got Nitka one. Have I ever tried intra workout? John Meadows strongly encourages their use. Yeah, so intras can be beneficial. Yeah, so especially for something like myself, or someone like myself who doesn't maybe tend to eat before, an intra workout could be beneficial because it gives me a little splash of nutrients to kind of keep me going through the workout, but maybe won't be so much where I get the typical stomach issues that I normally experience with food. So in that case, yeah, maybe it might be worth giving a whirl. Oftentimes my intra workout is beer. I genuinely enjoy having a couple of beers while I train. So that tends to be my intra, and things work out pretty okay for me. That may not be a method that anyone else would want to follow, but it's something that I've taken to, and I genuinely enjoy. A little bit of carbs, a little bit of alcohol. Alcohol is good in terms of it being inhibition. It helps drop inhibition, and it helps increase pain tolerance. So if you look on performance banned substances for like the Olympics, alcohol is one of them for exactly that reason. So it lowers your inhibitions and increases your pain tolerance. So I find that having a couple of beers while I train for me is beneficial, and it also gives me that energy kick from the carbs. So I tend to enjoy it very, very much. But like I said, if you're not 21, definitely don't do it, at least in the United States. And then, if it's not for you, it's not for you. Gotta go. Kids are fighting. Okay, Arno. Go save them from themselves. It's good to hear from you, brother. I hope you're well. Carb up. Yeah, I enjoy definitely carving up while I train. It's been something that's been nice. So Jason talks about a post-workout six-pack. So I'll be honest. Sometimes it's an intro workout six-pack. What's been happening lately is I've had a number of friends, especially with the whole pandemic thing, whatever, and gyms being shut down everywhere. I was fortunate enough to get my gym set up before everything hit. So I have probably the best and most accessible gym, for miles around me, right? And so a lot of my friends, without having a gym, have hit me up like, hey, can I come through and train? And so, yeah, absolutely. I love having my friends over. I love having the company while I train, and just sharing time and space with my friends. So what's been happening is up till recently, where a couple of guys have now fallen off because moving out, whatever else. There was like 5 or 6 of us in my garage at any point in time. So what would happen is we're drinking a few beers while we train, and then immediately, as soon as we're done training, we just move into just sitting around bullshitting, drinking beers. So it's been like the most epic time for weight training for me, like ever, because getting able to throw around big weight, hanging out with my buddies, and we're drinking beer. Like, it's like wins the whole way around. It's been awesome. So, been very, very fun. And the sense of community for me has been just amazing, right? Like, it it for the first time in a long time feels like family, like belonging, like a group of people coming together and make it a thing, and really makes me want to build my own gym someday and kind of have that, so that I can create that environment for other people too. So that's, I think, long term is a goal of mine to open a gym, or maybe start a club or something like that. Um, yeah, one of my buddies thinks that I should start a Fort Campbell powerlifting club. So that's been some thought that I've had. So if you're in the Fort Campbell area and you are thinking about doing some powerlifting, hit me up and maybe we can get a thing going. Um, Leave. So Leave, you cracked me up because like one of your top comments is about why the channel isn't bigger, and I'll be honest, I love that. It's a very very nice thing for you to say, and I very much appreciate the support. Um, but I got to be honest, I'm pretty proud of where we're at right now. And the reason being is because me starting the channel, like I started the channel kind of late in my powerlifting career life. I think I kicked this thing off really heavily around 2016. So I maybe could be further along if I'd started really kind of at the peak of my lifting when I was younger. And I certainly would have gotten in on like the boom, right? So like the time of like Johnny Candido getting in and doing things, like I was lifting then too, but I wasn't doing videos. That just was never a thing. I didn't have the awareness of YouTube for me to even see that as a thing. So I didn't start doing it until later. And when I did start it, uh, basically I had one viewer, and that's like mom. And I think my wife was second, and like so on and so forth, right? So the immediate growth of the channel was really just people who knew me directly, and would watch just because they're my friends or they're my family or whatever, right? But over the years now, we've grown the channel. I think we're I think we're just shy of 4,000 subs now. And for me, that's huge, right? Like, I think that is amazing because I haven't done anything crazy to try to grow the channel really. Like, I'm not doing any of those like paid services to get more viewers. I'm not doing any of those things. I'm just continuing to make the videos that I want to make and being as interactive with you guys as I can by responding to your comments, by making myself available and accessible to answer questions because it's the interaction and the helping that really means the most to me. And I figure if I just keep doing what I'm doing and it's making a difference for people, then the channel will continue to grow, even if it's only growing slowly. So, again, Lee, I appreciate your faith in the channel and your belief that it should be much bigger than it is. And I can only hope that one day it will be. Um, but I'm not willing to do anything beyond kind of where I already am to make the channel grow much more than it already is. One thing I will be doing in the near future will be doing some more traveling. So once things open up some more, and I'm not restricted by how far I can travel, then I would look to go link up with other YouTubers and make some more videos and do some more things and hopefully get exposed to more people so that if they see me and they like me, maybe they'll stick around. But aside from that, there isn't really much else that I'm going to be doing that's going to try to grow the channel. I like it. Doing this makes me happy, and I want to make sure that all of this continues to make me happy too. Um, Jason, give me the thumbs up. Adam's back. Glad to see him still training. Yeah, still training. Working through an injury right now, but still on top of it. He says too bad. I I appreciate it. If you want to introduce me to more people and stuff like that, it helps me grow the channel, and I'm very appreciative for that. But really, I rely on my viewers and my friends that kind of help me get introduced to new people. So, and then YouTube algorithm, whenever that pops up, maybe new people see me. I don't know. Adam's been sending people my way. Hey, I appreciate it, man. Like, it's very, very kind, and that's where I hope to be at, right? So, like, by developing relationships with my viewers and like knowing you by name and like knowing a little bit about what's going on in your life, it changes things from the normal YouTubers that you see, right? Like, if you see someone like a Mark Bell, right? Like, if you write Mark Bell on Instagram and say, hey man, what's going on, or whatever, and ask them a question, more than likely you're not going to get a response. Whereas with me, the channel is still of a size where if someone writes me and says hi, they're going to get a response. So, Bill Coleman, the whole reason why I kicked off this live was to answer some questions that, a gentleman wrote and asked me. So I just wanted to make sure I gave answers. But I thought, it might be also a good opportunity to be able to interact with people too. So kind of two birds, one stone, so to speak. Elise says, no, do what you want. Feels like I'm fighting with my girlfriend right now. Do what you want. Come to Canada. That actually might be an option. That might be kind of cool. My last name, Arbic, if you look at it, in the United States, there are not very many Arbics. Any and every Arbic in the United States is directly related to me. And the name is far more prevalent in Canada because somebody at some point in time came over on a boat and couldn't spell. So the name got changed to what it is. There's some old iterations of what the name used to be, but anyway, so there is a lot of connection to Canada. In fact, my dad was born and raised in Sault Ste. Marie, which is so far north, the town is divided in half as a Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, and a Sault Ste. Marie, Canada. I can't remember what province it's in, but yeah, anyway, so the town is literally split in half by the border. But anyway, so it would be kind of cool to get up there and hang out, so that might be something we could do in the future for sure. Lee says, I'm not going to share your videos because I am too busy. Lee, that's fine. If you're too busy to share the videos, I understand. I am appreciative that you're willing to check it and tune out, tune into the videos and drop in from time to time and say hello. So whether or not you share them, I'm just happy that you're here. Adam says, people always ask, where do you get programming? I'll send them the free programming YouTube link. Cool. That's awesome, man. I think that I'm really happy with the program that I put together, and it really is the program that I follow as well. So, I've tweaked it over the years and do different things with it, but the root of it, I still follow to the day. Clark wants to know what I think is more impressive: high body weight percentage lifting or higher lifts in general. I like big numbers. So that comes down, this is essentially the formula versus total argument that you hear so very often in powerlifting. And I know a lot of people, they put a lot of stock in the formulas and things like that. The Wilks, what's your Wilks score? I'm not a fan of it. I think that there's imperfections in the formula. I don't think there's any real fair way to break down formula, because it ends up being favorable to somebody somewhere, or more favorable to a lighter lifter or a heavy lifter or whatever. So I'm generally not a big fan of the formula. I'm a big fan of numbers. Total is king. That's my opinion. Let's see here. Adam says, total or get the fuck out. Yeah, so I don't think I would say it so brashly, but I don't disagree. Steady says, hey, what's going on, man? How are you? Troy, hola. Troy is if you guys have ever seen The Incredibles, Troy is Mr. Incredible. If you have seen him in person, he is like a real live version of Mr. Incredible. Fascinating man. I hope all is well in retirement and things are good for you. I am not retired and still hate them. And sexy, yes. Just like Mr. Incredible. And sexy. So Yutka says, really like the channel and most of the content. You're doing a great job. Great. I'm really, really glad. The content and stuff that I produce, I've thought a lot about it as time has gone, in terms of like what I do and when I do it and all that other stuff. So generally speaking, I try to do things that are going to be helpful to people, or that hopefully somebody will find interesting. But ultimately, everything I do is really what I want to do, right? Like, so I'm not doing any kind of video that I don't want to do. But I also know that not everybody's going to like all of my content. So there might be a video or two or whatever that I do that people just aren't going to enjoy or won't apply to them super specifically, especially if I start talking about like army stuff. That will only really resonate with other soldiers. So it just kind of depends. So I certainly understand, kind of picking and choosing what of the channel that you watch and what you don't. What we got? This is my daughter. This is Jill. We're live. What do you want? Is what? Is it? Yes, it is afternoon. That's my youngest daughter. Okay, so what do we got here? Gotta head out. All right, Brad. Good to see you, man. Bye, April, or later. I don't usually say bye. Later. Hope you guys are good and everything's well. All right, Jason, back to work. See you, Bob. Troy. Troy, that's hot. Sidiad wants to know any tips on raising a chest. Fat old duffer here. So are you talking about like building your chest and getting a bigger chest? Clear that up for me. Jason, damn it, with the vegetables. So Jason's a vegan and always razzes on me because I don't like vegetables. I prefer not to eat with my foods. They eat it for me. I eat them and then get the nutrients. That's how I look at things. Veggies and fruit habits. Swear to God, we're like soul brothers here. Yeah. So steady ed. Define gravity. Okay. So yeah, man, basically just developing and tightening the chest, right? So some of if you're experiencing like droopiness and whatever else, some of that's going to be a little bit of body fat. So maybe cutting body fat a bit might help keep your shape a bit better. Certainly building the muscle tissue will be good. So doing things that are going to focus specifically on the pecs and building up your pecs is going to help keep a shapiness to your chest. Working the inside of the chest specifically, working toward the bottom of the chest, hitting different ranges of motion. So incline press, flat press, decline press, flies. One of the ones that I really like for the center of the chest, I call it the prison press. And that's where I lay on my back with dumbbells, keeping the dumbbells together, always touching down to the chest and then up, and then down to the chest and then up, right? And so at the top, you get this really sick squeeze in the chest and you'll really feel it in the center of the pecs. I really like that movement because I feel it helps shape and define the chest. So those are a couple quick things. But chest workout through a variety of ranges of motion and a variety of angles will help hit the chest from multiple fronts and should help shape you up. Yes, Jay is a vegetarian. Vegetarian, vegan, they're maybe not the same thing. I don't do it, so I'm not like super hip on all the terms, and I know that there's varying degrees of I don't eat meat, but he's one of them, somewhere in that spectrum. Clark says, often with Wilks, you find that short people with mediocre lifts are advantaged, which is pretty lame. Yeah, that's always the argument with formula. It's like essentially formula is seeking to balance the disparity between like body weights of the lifters and things like that. So I think that the concept of it is somewhat flawed. So it's hard to find a mathematical equation that's just so. I heard recently that there was a new formula that is maybe more favored than Wilks, but I don't know. But bottom line is, I'm not a fan of Wilks. I think Wilks is more applicable when you're talking about in the same weight category. So if we're 140 kilo class and we have a few lifters in the 140 kilo class, and you're looking to try to figure out who was the better lifter, well, no, because even then, it's just who lifted the most. The only way that it's applicable is if two lifters lift the same weight, and then you apply, body weight, and the lighter lifter would be the better lifter because, they did the same weight at a lower weight. That's really the only time that I would see the formula being. That's the only time that I would rely on the formula. Aside from that, I think that it should be the biggest lifts. So, like, best lifter at a competition should be the biggest total. That's what I think. But you got to understand too, it's also somewhat biased of me because I am a big guy. So when I compete, I either compete in the 140 or super heavyweight. So it'd be easy for the bigger, heavier guys to say total because more often than not, it's going to be the biggest, heaviest guys that have the highest total and then therefore winning best competition, right? So like there is some bias in that, and I totally acknowledge that. So yeah, nice one. Yeah, hey, no worries, man. I'm glad to help. And I know that's not like a super like one size, do this and you're really good to go answer. But working on that muscle from a variety of angles is the best thing that you can do. William, yeah, hey, no worries, man. Bill. So Bill, the guy that actually, kind of encouraged me to do the video in the first place, popping in and saying thanks for the response. You are welcome. I hope that the information was palatable and you were able to find the answers to your question somewhere in these 50 minutes. Just get carried away talking, hanging out with you guys. All right, so Adam, since you're an ambassador to the sport, what are your opinions on the use of PEDs within the community and guys like Larry Wheels opening up about it? Do you think it's a negative thing or a positive thing? Wow. So if you'll notice, I have never, ever really discussed or even acknowledged PEDs on my channel. It's not something that I normally talk about because it's not something I focus on. I honestly do not have an opinion of it. I'm not concerned with it. I don't focus on it. I don't care who does it. I don't care who doesn't. It is so far off of my radar that it's just not even something that I even think about. Because everything that I've always done in terms of like my progress or how I approach training has everything to do with me. I don't care what anyone else is doing. And in powerlifting, right, obviously there's competition. I go to a meet and I'm going to be competing against somebody. And sure, I could go and see what their numbers are to get an idea where they are, whatever else. But ultimately, I'm only going to be as strong as I'm going to be on that day as I can be. So even if I were aware of what somebody else was doing numbers-wise or PED-wise or whatever else, it doesn't change where I am at. I can only be where I'm at. And so because of that mentality, I have never cared what anyone else did or didn't do. Now, in terms of people being on them and opening up about it, I think that it's cool to a sense for people to discuss it and be open, because I don't like when people are like they hold themselves up and they say, hey, you can do what I can do, but all the while, maybe they're on PEDs, and the average person who doesn't take PEDs thinks that maybe they can attain what Larry Wheels has attained naturally. I feel like that's kind of a false narrative, and I don't respect that. But I also understand why most people don't discuss it, because PEDs are, if we're talking specifically about steroids, PEDs are illegal, right? Like, you can get in a lot of trouble for possessing them. So for somebody not to come out and open and discuss some of their illegal behavior, like, I understand that, right? Like, self-preservation is a thing. So there are lots of people who use them and opt not to discuss it at all, right? They don't talk about it, they don't acknowledge it, or whatever. I don't think that that's deceitful, because I don't think it's any of my business what someone does or doesn't do behind the closed door, right? Like in a number of facets, but specifically that one, right? I don't give a damn what you inject into yourself because it has no bearing on you. Now, in terms of it being good or bad for the sport, that's kind of it's a double-edged sword, right? So when you have guys like Larry Wheels who are doing really really amazing things and lifting weights and just doing these incredible feats of strength, it's good for the sport because it draws a lot of attention and it opens up people's ideas about possibility. And certainly, you have no chance of doing anything amazing if you don't get out and try, right? If you don't start lifting weights in the first place, you're never going to lift big weights. Now, is there a natural limit for people not on steroids to kind of a natural stop point? I think probably. You can only get but so big and so strong, and so one of the reasons why steroids are so popular is because they work. So they allow people to push beyond kind of what their natural boundaries would be. So in that sense too, I also think it's bad because then you see people that are doing these amazing things, and might have young lifters who think that they can do that and are trying to live up to a standard that they have no prayer of ever catching. And so in that sense, I think it's also bad. But ultimately, I pin it on every individual, right? Like you as an individual have the responsibility of maintaining your own psychology and your own view and outlook, right? And so if you are the type of person that looks at everyone around you, especially in social media and on the internet and Instagram and whatever else, and everything that you see, you think that you could do too someday, then that's also pretty naive. So I think really the best perspective that any of us can ever have in terms of how we approach lifting and how we approach our training is to be very focused on ourselves. You are only going to be as good as you can be, and to try to lay somebody else's template on you and think that you could be them, I think is just the wrong mentality to have, and it's starting from a bad place. But if you are the type of lifter that is always just trying to outdo yourself, I think there's no way you can go wrong, because ultimately you are in direct competition with yourself, and it doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. So a bit of a rant, but I hope that answers the question. It's not on my radar. I don't care. I don't demonize it. I don't hate it. I don't whatever. It's just not my fucking problem. So I try not to absorb issues that aren't my issues. Yeah, I hope that answers the question. Let's see. Clark, I'm 180 and still agree that heavier lifts are more impressive than looks. One of the old comments, Clark, that people used to make is, people go to the circus and see the elephants, not the fleas. So that is something that I've heard among powerlifting circles for decades, right? So people go to see the big giant lifts. When you look at a powerlifting meet, you look at really any powerlifting meet. Usually the biggest day, or the most trafficked day in terms of crowd, is the day where it's the super heavyweights. It's the big lifts that people go in there and get really really excited about. Now, I don't say that to diminish the efforts and the strength and all that of the lighter lifters. There are lots of lifters that are light that are doing really incredible things, and I generally really do think that their lifts and the things that they do are amazing. But if we're looking at grand scheme of things, it's usually the biggest, heaviest lifts that get me the most excited. So it's kind of how I do things. What's up, Boo? You want to come and say hi again, don't you? No, not right now. I gotta wait till we're done with this, okay?
So when you're done with your videos, you can?
When I'm done with the video, yes, you can. All right, let's see here. So Bill says, apologize if you address this and I missed it. Is the use of general legal supplements. So I did. I talked about the supplement piece in there. I don't know when I said it, but more or less, I said protein, creatine, and vitamin D. So Adam says, good insight. Definitely going to go look at. I respect that. Sorry to put you on the spot a bit. Appreciate it. Like, no, so Adam, it doesn't put me in the spot at all. Like, I'm not the guy. I never want to be the kind of person that's like that brings that type of stuff up because it's very that type of stuff can be very polarizing, right? And there's a lot of drama that goes around that. And so I never wanted to get sucked into the whole thing of like, who's on steroids and who isn't, blah blah blah, blah, right? Because there are some channels that are more or less based on that, where all you hear about is like natty this or natty that or fake natty or whatever. And I don't respect that at all. I think that that's a really bullshit mentality to have, and I think it's weak sauce. I think that whether you choose to be natural or not is an individual's choice, and it shouldn't be up for discussion from anyone. Now, I do think that if you opt to go the route of performance enhancing drugs, and you are in a position where you're selling things like supplements or whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, take this protein and you're going to be as big and as strong as me, and also fucking 3 milligrams of tren a week. You know what I mean? I think that's bullshit too. So like, I'm not a fan of that, but I understand like the business to it, right? Like businesses want to sell products, and what's going to sell a product? Somebody that looks big and strong, right? So like, it's a double-edged sword. But I think that we as viewers and consumers, we need to be a little bit smarter and just understand, like, take things with a grain of salt. So like, if some IFBB pro is peddling some new supplement, we have to understand that they probably aren't just taking that protein powder. There might be a little bit more to the physique that they developed. And as long as we can, in our own minds, have that maturity, then there really isn't much of a problem, right? But it's just this idea that like people are so naive that they think, some IFBB pro got how they got because they're taking such and such protein powder. Is pretty naive. All right. Ryan wants to say, good stuff. Appreciate the perspective. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks. Appreciate that. Leave just farted. Congratulations. Steady Ed, this is all new to me and enjoying learning. 55, 5'8", 220 ex-rugby league, and pro wrestler, a few injuries in the last couple of years. Slip disc, the same hernia as yourself. Easing back into things. Yeah, hey, you know what? I appreciate that. And I like being, I like kind of just doing things the way I do things. And I am very appreciative that there is anyone out there that appreciates my approach. So that's pretty cool. And in terms of the injuries and stuff like that, like obviously, injuries come. And my biggest thing with injuries is, being proactive and not treating sticking points like stopping points. So even though, we do experience injuries, and even though they do cause setbacks, finding ways to progress through them and training despite is the basis of the channel. It was me having you can see the scar, but that tattoo that's got a big hole in it, complete distal avulsion of the bicep tendon, had to have it reattached, and then did it to this one too. And this one, I destroyed the tendon so thoroughly, they had to inlay some cadaver tendon just to fix my arm. So I definitely understand, injury and recovery and, the setbacks of all that is. And so very much my whole hope was just kind of inspire people to not use excuses, right? Like you're only as strong as your strongest excuse. And then as soon as the excuse outweighs everything is when you stop. Just finding a way to continue to go is what we all do. Fear of recurring injuries. Yeah, I'm always afraid of getting hurt, but I don't allow myself to be so afraid that I don't continue to progress. I just got hurt just this past Wednesday, and it's been an injury that I've had before. So the injuries crop up and they happen, and it's just an opportunity to kind of readdress things and try maybe a new approach. So I might have to restructure things as I go forward, so that hopefully I can find a way to stop getting hurt. But it's just part of the thing. So yeah, getting hurt does scare me, but not so much so that I'd be willing to stop. Um, Adam, I don't know if you addressed this yet or not, but if you have any comps planned anytime soon, it'd be cool to see you on that platform again and smash 501 in the 2011 total. Yeah, dude, that 501 been fucking haunting me. Yeah, it would be cool. It'd be cool to to crush that and then top the 2011. Really, my ultimate bucket list goal would be a 2,100 pound total going like 858 is essentially what I would like to do. I don't know if I'll be able to do it because there will not be any competitions in 2020. I won't be in the United States for much longer. And then 2021 is already not looking very good either. So, yeah, there's the soonest I could get something in, so far as I know, might be like 2022, and that's too far out for me to even care about. To be honest with you, like I don't even have a dinner plan for tonight, let alone planning a meet, 2 years out, whatever. So no, I don't know. I very well may never compete again. It just kind of this. If it happens, it's going to happen. If it doesn't, I'm okay with where I'm at. I've done a lot of really cool stuff, and more so all the time. I feel less and less the need to compete. My competition happens every day when I go to the gym, and I'm more and more satisfied with that. Whereas before, I never was. So truthfully, I just genuinely don't know. I may never compete again, but I don't know, we'll see. And I don't mean that to be like suspenseful. I just don't know. Um, yeah, right. Why is he not doing that still? Um, about competition, Steve? Just no time and space to get it in, really, honestly. Um, Sad, but that's understandable. Yeah, hitting 2K. So I have two I think I have two or three meets that I hit above 2K. And that's really cool. Like I'm really happy that I was able to hit, above a 2,000 pound total twice. I was in the USPA. I was the first person in Florida to hit a 2,000 pound total. I think in the Army for a while, I think someone now has beat it. I'm not sure, but for a while I had the highest uh, raw total of any active duty service member of any branch. That was pretty cool. But like all things, right? Like if you do something really cool, eventually someone's going to top it, right? Like so, whatever big record or whatever, I had some national records for a while. I think they've been beat now too. Records are really meant to be broken, and that's cool because you're only gonna stand in the light for so long, and then spotlight's going to go to somebody else. That's just kind of the way of things. Yeah. All right. I think, unless you guys have any more burning questions, we've been going for an hour plus. I am really surprised by how much activity we've had. I really do appreciate you guys, tuning in and hanging out with me. That's pretty awesome. A lot of activity and a lot of interaction on this live, and I'm grateful for that. I don't want to make this too long because then no one ever checks it out. Next live session, Ryan wants to know. Ryan, as you may have noticed, I am super shitty about planning these things. I could probably do a lot better in terms of viewership and interaction if I plan them ahead of time. But I just don't. I get something will happen and I'll get a wild hair. I'm like, we'll go live. And it's just very erratic. So I will make more effort to do something where I plan a live and maybe like a day or two in advance would probably be all that I could do. Because a lot of times, with a wife and 4 kids and being in the Army, I don't always have control over my schedule. So if in my mind I say, hey, on Sunday at 10 o'clock, I'm going to go live, invariably something's going to pop up where I'm not available Sunday at 10 o'clock. So like that's, I kind of take things as they come, as why that is what it is. But if you guys want something planned, I will try to do a better job of planning. And if I plan something, I'll put it out on my Instagram. So if you don't already check me out on there, check me out at Brad_Ardick. And then I will also make a post on YouTube to announce the live. So if you guys only follow me on YouTube, maybe you'll see it there too. Yeah, I'll try to do another. I'll try to do another one, and then just pop live so that you guys can bring some questions and see how it goes. Adam says, thanks, you're welcome, man. City Ed says, best online beer buddy ever. That's funny because one of my training partners that actually just moved away, Tim, he was probably one of the best training partners I've ever had. He would frequently say, like, as we were drinking beer while we were training, the best gym partner ever. So that always made me feel good. So yeah, I appreciate it. Online beer buddy. Oh yeah. Lee, what's your question? Cool. Yeah, Ryan. Like you said, I'll try to post something, be like maybe more planned. That way, if you guys have questions that you want to bring to the table, or you want to think of some questions you can bring to the table, you'll have time to prepare them. Or I could maybe put out some Q&A stuff where I ask for some questions and then answer them on a set and planned live. But today's live was more about answering Bill's question and then just kind of hanging out and see who popped up. Leave, I'm standing by for your questions, so let a dude know. Other than that, yeah, gonna hang out. Hope I can go on a date with my wife today. She's working right now, and I've been trying to get her to go on a date with me. Trying to do better job at being a better husband. So take my wife out on dates and do nice things. Try it. Ribeye steak, nice haircut. Thanks. I did it myself. Actually, I just cut it yesterday too, so I appreciate you noticing. We followed through. I don't know. Yeah, but I cut my own hair, and because I hate going to get my hair cut, I feel like going and paying like $15 for a haircut is more expensive than I'd like to do, and it cuts into my beer fund. So every haircut, that's beer money. So I like beer more than I like haircuts. Troy, yeah, man, no worries. Yeah, no worries, dude. Hope you're good, man. Miss you. Leave. Leave. You said you had a question. I'm still waiting for the question. All right. Apparently no question from Leave. So, without just sitting here and staring at each other, we'll go ahead and wrap it down, guys. I really do appreciate you guys continuing to support me in the channel. Thank you so much for jumping in and checking out the live and interacting with me for this hour or so. I appreciate you guys a lot. As always, if you know anyone that might like the channel, if you wouldn't mind sharing it with them or showing it to them or whatever, turn them on to it. Maybe they'll like it and stick around for a while too, and grow the channel and keep doing cool things. Hopefully here soon, I hope to do some traveling and do some collaboration with a few folks. So be looking for that kind of stuff. And as always, guys, if you have any questions that you'd like me to answer, something that you'd like me to respond to, feel free to reach out to me here in the chat comments, in email, on Instagram, whatever. Just hit me up. Always want to try to help. I may not always be able to, but at least I'll give it a whirl and see what happens. Thank you guys for continuing to support the channel. Remember, no matter what it is you think you can't do, you got to get in and train to fight. Whether you're going to find an excuse, you're going to find a way. And I hope that you guys continue to find a way. Thanks for hanging out with me. See you guys in the next one. Peace.